Early morning light filters through frosted windows of an old wooden studio. The sound of wind brushes softly outside. The year was 1903. A small town on the coast of Maine slept beneath a quilt of snow, and inside a crooked wooden studio at the end of a lane, an old stove hummed quietly. That was where Clara Merritt painted. She had been there for years, through winters that seemed endless and summers that burned like memory. The locals called her the woman who paints the weather, though few had ever seen her work. Every morning, before the sun rose, Clara would open her window to the cold. She said the morning air helped her see the colors of silence. Her easel stood beside the same wooden stool her father built when she was 16. Paints, brushes, and rags scattered the floor like old thoughts. A kettle whistled on the stove, releasing the smell of tea and turpentine. A slow pan across her paintings empty fields, frozen lakes, distant houses glowing with candlelight. She was not famous, not even known beyond her town, but to the few who had seen her art, it felt as if time itself had been caught in her paint. The soft ache of winter mornings, the long sigh of autumn wind, the hush of first snow. Each season, she painted one great canvas, never selling it, never showing it, and when the year ended, she'd wrap it in linen, label it with a date, and store it in the attic. She called the collection The 4 Seasons of My Life. A young boy delivers firewood to her studio. He pauses, watching her paint. That morning, a boy named Eddie Miller knocked on her door, his hands red from the cold. "Miss Clara," he said shyly, "Ma says you might need more wood." She smiled, her eyes kind but distant. "Thank you, Eddie. Leave it by the stove. I'm painting the snow before it melts." The boy looked at the half-finished canvas, a frozen river glowing faintly with morning light. "It looks real," he whispered. Clara paused. "It is real," she said softly, "for this moment. That's what painting does, it keeps the moment from leaving." Close up, her brush moved slowly, gently across the canvas. Outside, snow drifted down in small, patient circles. Inside, the only sound was the brush against canvas, soft, steady, like breathing. Clara's hand trembled slightly now. She was older, and winter no longer felt like silence, it felt like memory. She remembered a time when her husband, Thomas, used to sit by that window, reading his letters by lamplight. He had gone to a war far away and never returned. She never remarried. Instead, she painted through grief, through loneliness, through decades of seasons that never asked for permission to change. Evening settles, a single candle flickers as she looks at her painting. That night, as the candle burned low, Clara stepped back from her canvas. She studied the frozen river, the faint light glimmering on ice. To anyone else, it was a winter landscape, but to her, it was a memory of goodbye. She whispered to herself, "Time never really leaves us. We just learn to paint over it." And then she blew out the candle. Outside, the snow kept falling, and the old studio exhaled softly, as if even the walls were dreaming. Morning light melts the snow outside the small coastal town. A robin lands on the window frame of Clara's studio. By the time spring touched the coast of Maine, the air had softened, and the sea smelled of thawed earth and salt. Inside her studio, Clara opened the windows at last. The winter chill escaped like a ghost taking one final breath. She set aside her winter canvas, wrapped carefully in linen, and began stretching a new one. This one would be brighter, she always painted. A new season as soon as the old one faded. The ritual steadied her heart. The hill outside town green, shoots pushing through muddy soil. There was a hill behind her cottage that caught the first sun of April. When she was young, she used to climb it with her sketchbook tucked under her arm. Her mother would wave from the porch, shouting, "Don't fall asleep in the grass again, Clara." Now, 50 years later, she climbed the same hill more slowly. The same wind that once tangled her hair now pressed it flat and grey. But when she reached the top, the view was still endless fields, a church steeple, the far glimmer of ocean. She took out her old paint box, its hinges squeaking like tired birds, and mixed the first colors of spring, a pale green for hope, a soft yellow for memory, and a quiet blue that belonged to no season at all. Flashback, young Clara sketching in the same spot, laughing with a young man. She could still see herself there, 18 years old, sunburned, laughing beside a boy named Andrew Hollis. He had been a carpenter's apprentice, building boats down by the docks. He was tall, thoughtful, always smelling faintly of cedar and smoke. He used to bring her bits of polished wood, saying, "You paint beauty. I build what floats through it." They dreamed of a studio by the harbor, a life filled with work and wind and color. But dreams, like seasons, move on. Andrew left to find work in Boston, promising to return. He never did. She received one letter, folded neatly with sawdust still clinging to the edge. After that silence, Present day Clara painting the hill. Clara dipped her brush into the green, her hands trembling only slightly. She painted the hill the way it looked in memory, not reality. Brighter, softer, a place untouched by time. When Eddie, the wood delivery boy, came by again, he paused in the doorway. "Miss Clara," he said, "Ma says the hill looks alive this week." She smiled. "It's the world waking up. Eddie, listen carefully, you can almost hear it stretch." He tilted his head. All he heard was the far whistle of a train. But Clara heard the hum beneath it, the pulse of the earth, the breath of time. Evening light, Clara alone in the studio. At sunset, she returned home, boots muddy, skirts damp with dew. The studio glowed with amber light on the canvas. The hill shimmered with a life of its own. She whispered, "This one is for youth," and then, softer still, "and for the boy who never came back." The sea wind rattled the shutters in reply, as if the past itself sighed. Nightfall, the sound of the tide. When night settled, she lit a single lamp. Outside, frogs sang near the marshes. Clara cleaned her brushes carefully, laying them in a neat row. She glanced toward the attic where the winter painting rested, and felt, for the first time in years, that she was not painting alone. Each canvas seemed to hold a part of her, and together they whispered softly, reminding her that time, no matter how far it flows, always circles back, like spring on the hill. Morning light filters through thin lace curtains. Summer came quietly to the coast that year. The mornings were warm enough for Clara to paint, barefoot by the window, her toes brushing against cool floorboards polished by decades of salt air. The hill she had painted in spring was now hidden under a sweep of tall grass, and the scent of lilacs drifted in from the garden below. Clara dipped her brush in gold-tinged sunlight, mixing colors that only existed in memory, the exact shade of June. A knock at the door. One humid afternoon, a knock echoed through the cottage. It was Mr. Sanders. The postman, red-faced and sweating under his cap. "Morning, Miss Clara," he said, handing her a stack of envelopes tied with twine. "Looks like someone's been remembering you." She chuckled softly, her voice like a sigh of wind. "Not likely. Mr. Sanders, my days of being remembered are long gone." He tipped his hat. "You never know, ma'am. Sometimes the world circles back." When he left, Clara sat by the window and untied the bundle. Most were bills, local notices, and a letter from a small gallery in Portland, but one envelope stopped her hand cold, the handwriting neat, deliberate, she hadn't seen in over 50 years. The name at the corner, Andrew Hollis. Flashback 1871. The harbor at dusk, the smell of sawdust, the sound of waves slapping wood. Andrew standing on the pier, his hands in his pockets, looking at her as though she were the whole horizon. "I'll come back for you, Clara," he had said. She believed him. She always had. Present Clara opening the letter. The paper trembled slightly in her hands. Inside was a single page, yellowed at the edges. The words were short, written with care but heavy with time. "Clara, I never made it back. Life kept me far from the sea, but not from you. I saw your paintings once in a shop window in Augusta. You captured the world the way I remembered it before it broke. If this finds you, know that you were my spring, even when the winters came." It was unsigned. No address, no date. Only a pressed violet between the folds, fragile, dried, eternal. Clara pressed it to her heart, and for a long moment, the years dissolved. The room filled with the scent of sawdust and young love again. The invitation. That same evening, she opened the other letter, the one from the Portland Gallery. "Dear Miss Whitmore, we are hosting a summer exhibition featuring regional artists of the last century. Your works have been requested for display. Please send any pieces you wish to include by the end of the month." Clara stared at the paper. Her heart thudded slowly, not from surprise, but from something gentler. Perhaps it was time. Packing the paintings, she spent the next week wrapping her canvases carefully. Winter silence, spring on the hill, and others that had never been seen by another soul. Each one carried a fragment of her life, a memory. A whisper. A year gone by. Eddie, the delivery boy, came by again. When he saw the paintings lined against the wall, he gasped, "Miss Clara, you made all these?" She smiled, her eyes shining in the golden light. "I didn't make them, Eddie. I lived them." He didn't understand, but he nodded anyway, helping her load the crates into the wagon. The journey to Portland. The road to Portland wound through meadows and small towns. Clara sat in the back of the cart, her hat tilted low, the sea wind brushing her cheeks. Every mile felt like a memory. A bridge she'd painted, a field she once crossed as a girl, a street she'd sketched by lamplight. For the first time in years, she wasn't painting time. She was traveling through it. The exhibition hall, the gallery was small, but bright. the kind of place that smelled faintly of varnish and salt. People moved quietly from painting to painting. When they stopped before hers, their expression softened. No one knew her name, but everyone felt the ache of her seasons. A woman whispered, "There's something familiar about this one. Like I've seen that hill before." Clara stood in the corner, unseen, her heart trembling with quiet joy. The moment. As the evening sun dipped, one of the curators approached her. "Miss Whitmore," he asked, "someone left this for you at the front desk." He handed her a small note. It was written in the same careful script. "I saw you'll spring again." She looked up, scanning the crowd, but no one was there. Just a breeze through the open door, carrying the scent of lilacs. Night back at the hill. Weeks later, Clara returned home. The exhibition had ended, but her world felt lighter. That night, she climbed the hill one last time. The moon hung low, brushing silver over the fields. She set up her easel and began a new painting, not of a season, but of time itself. The sea, the stars, the hill, her hands all moving together. Brush after brush, stroke after stroke, until the canvas glowed softly in the dark. She whispered, "Thank you for coming back." The wind carried her words away gently, lovingly into the endless summer night. Early autumn morning, the first leaves began to fall like tired confetti across the coast. Each morning, Clara woke to the sound of crows over the garden and the rustle of old newspapers at her doorstep. Summer had slipped away quietly, leaving behind that warm, golden silence that only autumn knows. The paintings she had sent to Portland had returned home safely. Now, they leaned against her wall like old friends, each carrying the scent of the gallery, the echo of whispers, and the hum of admiration she never thought she'd hear again. Clara ran her fingers across the frame of spring on the hill. Her reflection wavered on the glass. Her hair was silver now, her eyes still steady, but time had started to paint her. 2. The letter in the mailbox. One afternoon, Eddie brought another letter. He had grown taller over the summer, his sleeves a little short, his grin still shy. "It's from the Portland Gallery again. Miss Clara," he said, handing it to her carefully. "They said it's important." Clara smiled, taking it with gentle hands. "Thank you, Eddie. You've been my best messenger." He blushed and left, whistling down the path. Clara sat by her window, the world bathed in amber light, and opened the envelope. "Dear Miss Whitmore, we are pleased to inform you that your paintings have been selected for the American Artists Remembered Collection, a national exhibit celebrating forgotten painters of the last century. If you wish to include a final piece, please deliver it by year's end." A final piece. Her last chance to speak through color and light. Clara exhaled slowly. She knew what she had to paint, though the thought frightened her. Scene 3. Searching for a memory. For days, she walked the shoreline, sketchbook in hand. She wandered through the fields, through the markets, past children chasing paper kites across the sand, but nothing caught to her brush. No color seemed right, until one evening, as the sunset melted across the horizon, she caught her reflection in a puddle beneath the birch trees. It wasn't youth or beauty that she saw, but a face filled with seasons, a face that had waited, loved, lost, and endured. That was the painting she needed to make. Not another landscape, but herself, preparing the canvas. She cleared a space in her studio, laying out her brushes as though preparing for a ceremony. She whispered softly, "Let this one hold everything. Every morning, every year, every heartbeat." The blank canvas stared back, quiet, enormous, patient. Behind her figure, she brushed in the ghostly images of her for seasons. The snow of winter silence, the field from spring on the hill, the soft horizon from summer's window, and the falling leaves of the present moment. Each layer shimmered faintly beneath the next, as though her life were folded inside itself.